I forgot to tell my son I had called a technician to fix the security camera. When I accidentally checked the footage, I was horrified to uncover a dark secret about my son and daughter-in-law. 10 minutes later, the worst happened.
I had forgotten to tell my son the security cameras were back online, and the next morning when I checked the footage, my heart broke. My son Ryan and his wife Jessica were caught executing a cold, calculated plan, fake an electrical shock, and stage a fatal tumble down the basement stairs to make my death look like an accident. The boy I'd raised alone after his mother's death sat there calculating insurance payouts as if my life were a commodity. In that moment I realized I wasn't just confronting family betrayal, I had become the next target of a serial killer. What they didn't expect was that the man they meant to bury had quietly laid a trap that would make them walk right into it. Pause for a moment and imagine you're Steven sitting in that workshop watching your own son plan your murder on camera. What's your next move? Comment below with your thoughts and tell me where you're watching from. The satisfaction of a job well done has always been my greatest reward. Standing in my workshop this Thursday afternoon, I ran my weathered hands along the newly repaired security camera system, feeling that familiar pride from 40 years of electrical work. The October chill crept through the windows, but inside my home, the house I built with these hands in 1995, everything felt warm and secure. For 2 weeks, those cameras had been expensive decorations after a power surge knocked out the main circuit. Today, after 3 hours of careful rewiring, every lens was crystal clear, every microphone picking up the slightest sound. At 65, my eyes need reading glasses, but my hands still know electrical systems better than men half my age. This house represented everything I'd worked for. Every wire I'd run through these walls. Every outlet I'd installed, it was all mine. When Margaret died 8 years ago, I'd thought about selling. But this place held too many memories. Besides, Ryan needed somewhere to land when his life fell apart, and what kind of father would I be if I didn't help my only son? Car doors slamming pulled me from my thoughts. 5:30 sharp, Ryan and Jessica were punctual for our weekly dinners. I wiped my hands and headed for the front door, hearing Jessica's laugh from the driveway. That laugh used to charm me when Ryan first brought her home 3 years ago. Lately, something about it felt calculated. Dad, Ryan's voice carried forced cheerfulness I'd been noticing more often. How's the old homestead? I embraced my son, feeling how thin he'd gotten. Can't complain. Been keeping busy with some electrical work around the house. You know how I hate letting things pile up. Jessica stepped forward with that perfect smile that never reached her eyes. Steven, you work too hard. A man your age shouldn't be climbing around fixing things. That's what professionals are for. Professionals charge what I make in a week for work I can do in an afternoon, I replied, leading them inside. Besides, keeps these old hands busy. Over dinner, I watched them more carefully than usual. Maybe it was the electrician in me were trained to notice when circuits aren't running right. Jessica kept steering conversation toward the house, asking about property values, wondering if I'd considered updating insurance. Ryan barely made eye contact, giving vague answers about his job search that didn't add up. Any luck with those interviews? I asked, cutting my pot roast. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Market's tough, Dad, but I've got promising leads. That's wonderful, Jessica interjected smoothly. Steven, you're so generous with that monthly allowance. $700 goes such a long way. The way she said it made my skin crawl, like it was their due, not my choice to help family. Speaking of the house, Jessica continued, have you thought about updating your security system? These old cameras probably aren't very reliable anymore. I was about to mention I'd just spent the afternoon getting the system back in perfect working order when the phone rang. Mrs. Patterson from next door, frantic about a water leak in her basement. Could I take a look? Her late husband had always handled these things. Of course, Helen, I'll be right over. I hung up and turned back to Ryan and Jessica, who were already gathering their coats. Sorry, kids. Duty calls. No problem, Dad, Ryan said, still avoiding my eyes. We should get going anyway. I walked them to the door, that nagging feeling growing stronger. Something was off about tonight. Jessica's probing about security. Ryan's obvious discomfort. But Mrs. Patterson needed help and neighbors came first. As their car pulled away, I realized I'd completely forgotten to mention the cameras were working again. The phone call had interrupted my train of thought entirely. Tomorrow I'd tell them over coffee and run a proper test of the whole system. After 40 years of troubleshooting electrical problems, I'd learned the best way to catch issues was observing everything when people thought no one was watching. Friday morning arrived with that crisp October clarity that made everything seem sharper. I'd slept restlessly, my mind turning over last night's strange dinner tension. By 10 o'clock, I was in my workshop with fresh coffee, ready to run that comprehensive security system test. The multiple monitors came to life with satisfying clarity, every angle of my house displayed in high-definition audio pickup so clear I could hear the refrigerator humming. 40 years of electrical work had taught me to appreciate quality installations, and this system rivaled anything professionals charge thousands to install. I was adjusting camera angles when I heard a key in my front door. The timestamp read 10:15 a.m. Through the living room camera, I watched Ryan and Jessica let themselves in, moving with casual confidence of people who belonged here. But they weren't supposed to be here. Ryan had mentioned job interviews, Jessica errands. My finger hovered over the intercom when something in their behavior stopped me cold. They were looking around cautiously, checking corners, listening for my presence. This wasn't family dropping by for a friendly visit. Then it hit me. They had no idea the cameras were working. Last night's phone call had interrupted me before mentioning the repair. They still believed the system was dead. They thought they were invisible. Perfect, Jessica said, her voice crystal clear through the audio. He's not here, and those cameras are still broken from the power surge. Ryan looked uncomfortable, shifting nervously. Going through his personal papers feels wrong, Jess. Wrong. Jessica's laugh was nothing like the charming sound I'd known. This was cold, calculating. Ryan, we've discussed this. Sunday morning we make this look like an electrical accident in the basement. Your father's always tinkering down there, completely believable. My blood turned to ice. Sunday morning, electrical accident. They weren't planning to steal from me, they were planning to kill me. The life insurance alone is $200,000. Jessica continued pulling out folders from my bedroom desk. Plus the house value, over $600,000 total. Enough to pay your gambling debts and start fresh. Ryan's face went pale. I know the money would solve everything, but it's my father, Jessica. Your father who's controlled your life for 32 years. She snapped. Harold Peterson was harder to convince than you are, and that worked perfectly. Harold Peterson. The name meant nothing to me, but her casual tone made my skin crawl. Who's Harold Peterson? Ryan asked. Jessica smiled, that perfect smile I'd once found charming. An old man in Toledo with a nice house and trusting nature. Death certificate said natural causes, no investigation needed. Dorothy Mitchell in Akron was even easier, poor thing, just fell downstairs after signing over her property. The room spun around me. This wasn't desperation or family greed. This was a pattern. Jessica was a predator, and I was just her latest target. You never told me they actually died, Ryan whispered. What did you think happened? They moved to Florida. Jessica's voice dripped contempt. Ryan, grow up. This is how the world works. The weak get consumed by the strong. I watched my son, the boy I'd raised alone, nod slowly in agreement. Whatever good had been in him was being systematically destroyed by this woman's poison. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Jessica continued spreading documents on my coffee table like a general planning campaign. Electrical shock in the basement workshop. Fall downstairs. Delayed 911 call. By noon, we'll be grieving family members with a profitable future. 2 days. I had 2 days before they planned to murder me in my own home. As I sat surrounded by the tools and skills that had built my life, I realized forgetting to mention those cameras might have been the luckiest mistake I'd ever made. Jessica had killed twice before, but she'd never targeted someone who could see her coming. The hunter had just become the hunted, and she didn't even know it yet. The clock on my dashboard read 12:45 p.m. as I pulled into the parking lot of Sullivan & Associates. My hands were steadier than they'd been all morning because now I had a plan. The shock of discovery was behind me. What lay ahead was action. Catherine Sullivan's office smelled of leather and determination. She was younger than I had expected, maybe 50, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I'd called ahead, used the word emergency, and she'd cleared her afternoon. Mr. Brooks, you mentioned a murder conspiracy on the phone. I need to hear everything. I played the recordings on my phone. Jessica's voice filled the room. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Electrical shock in the basement workshop. Fall downstairs. Delayed 911 call. Kate's expression hardened with each word. This isn't desperate family greed, Mr. Brooks. This is professional elder abuse with homicide. You mentioned she referenced previous victims. Harold Peterson in Toledo, Dorothy Mitchell in Akron. Both died after property transfers. She was already typing on her computer. I'm scheduling an emergency competency evaluation with Dr. Hamilton. If they're planning to claim you're mentally unfit, we need medical documentation proving otherwise. Can you be there by 2:30? Absolutely. Good. I'm also calling my private investigator. If this woman has done this before, there'll be records. Dr. Hamilton's clinic was a 15-minute drive through familiar neighborhoods that suddenly felt foreign. Everything looked the same, but I was seeing it all through the lens of someone marked for death in 36 hours. The cognitive evaluation was thorough memory tests, problem-solving exercises, questions about current events. Dr. Hamilton had been my physician for over a decade, and her concern was genuine. Stephen, your cognitive function is excellent, better than most men 20 years younger. She signed the official documentation with authority. What you've described isn't paranoia. It's survival instinct responding to a real threat. By 3:30, I was back in Kate's office, where her investigator had news that changed everything. Jessica Williams doesn't exist, he announced, spreading documents across Kate's desk. Real name is Jennifer Walsh. She's wanted in connection with 2 suspicious deaths, Harold Peterson in Toledo and Dorothy Mitchell in Akron. Both cases remain open investigations. Kate leaned forward. Outstanding warrants. Active warrants in Ohio. Financial fraud, elder abuse, and now suspected homicide. Local police can arrest on site. The pieces were falling into place with terrifying clarity. Jennifer Walsh was a predator who specialized in elderly victims, and Ryan had delivered me to her like a gift-wrapped present. What's our timeline? Kate asked. They're planning the murder for Sunday morning. That gives us, I checked my watch, 41 hours. More than enough. Kate was already reaching for her phone. I'm calling Detective Frank Morrison. He heads the Elder Crimes Unit. With existing warrants and your recorded evidence, we can have her in custody before she knows what hit her. What about Ryan? Kate's expression softened slightly. Conspiracy to commit murder carries serious time, but if he cooperates and testifies against her, there might be options. The recordings make it clear she's the mastermind. By 4:30, our strategy was set. Tomorrow morning, Detective Morrison would review all evidence. The medical evaluation protected me against competency challenges. The outstanding warrants gave police immediate arrest authority. "Mr. Brooks," Kate said, as I prepared to leave, "you've done something remarkable here. Most victims of elder abuse never see it coming. You not only detected the threat you're stopping a serial killer. Walking to my car, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the satisfaction of a plan coming together. Jennifer Walsh had made one crucial mistake. She'd assumed I was just another helpless old man waiting to be victimized. Tomorrow she'd learn that some prey fights back. The evening air carried the scent of autumn leaves and possibility. In 37 hours, either I'd be dead in my basement or Jennifer Walsh would be in handcuffs. I knew which outcome I was betting on. The house felt different when I returned that evening. Same walls, same furniture, but now every corner held the potential for evidence. I moved through my pre-dinner routine with practiced normalcy, while my enhanced surveillance system captured everything in crystal clarity. Ryan and Jessica arrived at 6 sharp, their Friday evening smiles as predictable as clockwork. But tonight, I was listening for more than dinner conversation. "How was your day, Dad?" Ryan asked, settling into his usual chair. "Productive," I replied, which was the understatement of the century. "Took care of some important business in town." Jessica's eyes sharpened slightly. "Oh, anything interesting? Just old man errands. Doctor visits, paperwork. You know how it is." The lie came easily. Let them think I was just another elderly fool shuffling through his remaining days. During dinner, Jessica excused herself to make a phone call. Through the enhanced audio system, her voice came through perfectly from the kitchen. "Vinny, it's Jennifer. Sunday morning is confirmed." "Yes, 8 a.m. sharp." "No, the old man suspects nothing. Make sure your cleanup crew is ready by 10. "Vinny, another player in this deadly game." I filed the name away as Jessica returned to the table with that practiced smile. "Sorry about that. Work call." After dinner, they moved to the living room while I cleaned dishes, my ears tuned to every word through the surveillance system. "I can't keep doing this." Ryan's voice was barely above a whisper. Looking him in the eye, knowing what we're planning, "Ryan, we've been over this." Jessica's patience was wearing thin. "You owe $50,000 to people who break legs for late payments. Your deadline is Monday morning. What exactly do you think happens if we don't follow through? 50,000 gambling debts." Suddenly, Ryan's desperation made perfect sense. "There has to be another way," he pleaded. "There is no other way." Jessica's voice turned sharp. "You think I enjoy this. You think I wanted to become what I am. But this is survival, Ryan. Your father dies, or you do. Choose." The casual brutality of it staggered me. My own son reduced to this impossible calculation. "Tell me about Vinny," Ryan said after a long silence. "Vincent Castellano. He handles the technical side, forged documents, cleanup operations, witness management. He's been doing this for 20 years, across 6 states. Never been caught. Witness management. Sometimes neighbors get curious. Sometimes old friends ask too many questions. Vinny handles those situations. The scope of this operation was becoming clear. This wasn't just murder, it was organized crime with a body count stretching across state lines. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Jessica continued, her voice now businesslike. "You'll be here early, supposedly checking on your father. I'll be in the kitchen making coffee. He'll go down to the basement workshop like he always does. And then, electrical accident. The workshop has exposed wiring old equipment. Very believable for a man his age who insists on doing his own repairs. He'll be found at the bottom of the basement stairs. What if someone investigates? They won't. Vinny will be here by 10 to ensure the scene looks perfect. By noon, we'll be grieving family members planning a funeral. I stood at the kitchen sink mechanically washing the same plate over and over as they planned my death, with the efficiency of a business meeting. The insurance money clears in 30 days, Jessica added. House sale can happen within 60. We'll be in another state with new identities before anyone thinks to ask questions. New identities? Of course. Jennifer Walsh was probably just one name in a long list of assumed personas. By 9 o'clock, they were gone, leaving me alone with the weight of what I'd learned. I spent the next hour reviewing every recording, backing up files to multiple locations, creating an unbreakable chain of evidence. 34 hours. That's all the time I had left before they expected to find me dead at the bottom of my own basement stairs. But Vincent Castellano and his cleanup crew were about to discover that some old men don't die quietly. Saturday morning brought the kind of clarity that comes before a storm. I was up before dawn, coffee in hand, reviewing the final checklist that would determine whether I lived or died in 20 hours. The basement workshop, their chosen killing ground, needed additional coverage. I installed 2 micro cameras in the ceiling, joists positioning them to capture every angle where they planned to stage my accident. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd chosen the one room in the house where I had complete technical advantage. By 8:30, I had backup recording systems throughout the house, each one invisible to anyone who wasn't looking for them. Cloud storage ensured that even if they destroyed my equipment, the evidence would survive. Detective Morrison's office smelled of old coffee and determination. He was exactly what I'd hoped for, a weathered professional who'd seen enough elder abuse cases to recognize the real thing when it walked through his door. "Mr. Brooks?" I've been investigating crimes against seniors for 15 years. What you've uncovered here is the most sophisticated operation I've ever seen. I played him the recordings. His expression grew darker with each revelation. Jennifer Walsh? He said, pulling up files on his computer. We've been tracking her across 3 states. Outstanding warrants for fraud and suspected homicide in Toledo and Akron. Your evidence gives us everything we need. What's the plan? Tomorrow 7 a.m. We position tactical teams around your property. The moment she and your son arrive, we move. With the warrants and your recorded conspiracy evidence, this is airtight. What about Vinny Castellano? Morrison smiled grimly. Vincent Castellano has been on our radar for 2 decades. If he shows up for cleanup duty, we'll be waiting. This could break up an entire criminal network. The legal protection took another hour. Kate had prepared documents that locked down every aspect of my financial life. Accounts frozen against unauthorized access. Property transfers, blocked medical directives ironclad. They can't touch anything now, she assured me. Even if something goes wrong tomorrow, your assets are completely protected. What about the recordings? Legally obtained on your own property with reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. They're admissible and devastating. Any decent prosecutor would call this case a gift. By noon, I was back home surrounded by the quiet hum of hidden cameras and backup systems. Everything was ready. Professional law enforcement, legal protection, medical documentation, and enough evidence to put Jennifer Walsh away for life. I walked through my house, really looked at it for the first time in days. Every room held memories of the life I'd built here, the son I'd raised, the future I'd planned. Tomorrow that son would walk through my front door intending to watch me die. But he'd be walking into a trap 40 years in the making. The phone rang. Detective Morrison's voice was calm but urgent. Mr. Brooks, we just got word that Castellano's crew is already in Cleveland. They're taking this seriously. So are we. Yes, sir, we are. Try to get some rest tonight. Tomorrow's going to be intense, but you've done everything right. This woman's killing spree ends with you. After hanging up, I stood in my workshop surrounded by the tools that had built my life and would now save it. Jennifer Walsh had made one fatal miscalculation. She'd assumed I was just another helpless victim. Tomorrow morning, she'd discover that some prey comes equipped with teeth. 20 hours to go. I was ready. The Last Supper. That's what kept running through my mind as I set the table for 3. In 14 hours, Ryan and Jessica expected to find me dead at the bottom of my basement stairs. Instead, they'd be the ones facing a very different kind of ending. They arrived at 6 sharp Ryan, carrying flowers a touch. That might have been sweet if I didn't know he was planning to attend my funeral tomorrow afternoon. Dad, you look tired, Jessica said, settling into her chair with practiced concern. Are you feeling all right? Just fine, I replied, serving the pot roast I'd spent the afternoon preparing. Looking forward to a quiet Sunday at home. The irony was lost on them, but not on me. During dinner, Jessica pulled out a manila folder. Stephen, I know this might seem sudden, but we've been thinking about your insurance situation. These forms just need a quick signature to update your beneficiaries. I glanced at the documents, legal-looking papers that would probably sign away my life savings. What's the rush? Can't this wait until Monday? Well, the agent said there might be rate changes if we don't process these by tomorrow. Her smile was perfect, practice deadly. It's really just a formality. Ryan stared at his plate, unable to meet my eyes. His hands shook slightly as he cut his meat. You know, Jessica, I said conversationally, I've been having some memory issues lately. Sometimes I forget the simplest things. Just yesterday, I completely forgot to mention something important to you both. Her eyes sharpened. Oh, what was that? I'll remember eventually, I said, taking another bite. These things come back to you when you least expect them. After dinner, they moved to the living room, while I cleaned up their voices, carrying clearly through my enhanced audio system. He seemed more confused than usual, Jessica whispered. Did you see how he struggled with those insurance forms? Maybe we don't need to go through with this, Ryan said desperately. If he's getting worse naturally, maybe we just wait. Ryan? Her voice cut like a blade. Your creditors don't care about your father's natural decline. They want $50,000 Monday morning, or they start breaking bones. We stick to the plan. 8 a.m. tomorrow. 8 a.m. sharp. You'll be here early checking on him like the devoted son. I'll be making coffee in the kitchen. He goes down to the basement like he always does on Sunday mornings. And then, electrical accident. The wiring down there is ancient, perfect for what we need. He falls down the stairs. We call 911 in a panic. By the time paramedics arrive, it's too late. I stood at the sink mechanically washing dishes while they choreographed my death. What about afterward? Ryan asked. Vinny arrives at 10 for cleanup. Makes sure everything looks perfect. We play the grieving family, collect the insurance money, sell the house. By Christmas, we're in Florida with new identities. At 8:45, Jessica stepped outside to make a final call. Through the window, I watched her pace the driveway. Vinny, it's Jennifer. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Yes, everything's ready. The basement workshop, just like we discussed. 10 a.m. for cleanup. Make sure you bring the electrical equipment to stage the scene properly. When she came back inside, her mask was firmly in place. Well, we should let you get your rest, she said, kissing my cheek with lips that might as well have been ice. Big day tomorrow? Yes, I agreed. I have a feeling tomorrow will be very memorable. After they left, I walked through my house one final time, checking every camera, every backup system, every piece of evidence that would end Jennifer Walsh's killing spree forever. 11 hours. In 11 hours, Detective Morrison's tactical team would be in position. In 13 hours, Ryan and Jessica would walk through my front door expecting to commit murder. Instead, they'd walk into the most comprehensive trap I'd ever built. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, something I rarely did, and sat in my favorite chair. Tomorrow morning, either justice would be served or I'd be dead. But tonight, for these final hours, I was still Stephen Brooks, and I was ready for war. The countdown was almost over. 7 a.m. sharp. I was waiting in the living room when I heard their key in the lock. Ryan entered First Flowers and handed his alibi prop for being here early. Jessica followed, carrying a thermos of coffee and wearing the mask of a devoted daughter-in-law. "Dad, you're up early," Ryan said, his voice carefully cheerful. "We thought we'd check on you before you killed me at 8 o'clock, I said calmly. The silence that followed was absolute. The flowers slipped from Ryan's fingers, scattering across my carpet like evidence at a crime scene. Jessica recovered first, that practiced smile sliding into place. "Stephen, what a strange thing to say. Are you feeling confused this morning?" "Not confused at all." I reached for the tablet beside my chair. "Let me show you exactly how clear my thinking is." The first recording filled the room. Jessica's voice crystal clear through my enhanced audio system. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Electrical shock in the basement workshop. Fall downstairs delayed 911 call. Ryan's face went white as bone. Jessica's mask finally cracked. "You've been recording us," she whispered, "for 3 days. Every word, every plan, every confession." I scrolled through the files. Harold Peterson in Toledo. Dorothy Mitchell in Akron. Your real name, Jennifer Walsh. Outstanding warrants in 3 states. "This is impossible," Jessica snarled. "Those cameras have been broken for weeks. I fixed them Thursday afternoon. I forgot to mention it Friday morning, the luckiest mistake of my life. I stood feeling stronger than I had in years. You see, Jennifer, you made one fatal error. You assumed I was just another helpless old man." Ryan collapsed into a chair, his face buried in his hands. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. The gambling debts, the threats. $50,000, I said. That's what my life was worth to you. It wasn't supposed to be like this." Ryan's voice broke. "She said it would look natural, that no one would get hurt. No one would get hurt." I played another recording, Jessica's cold voice describing Harold Peterson's death. Dorothy Mitchell's accident. "She's killed before Ryan. You weren't helping her commit fraud. You were helping her commit murder." Jessica's composure shattered completely. "You don't understand what it's like out there. These old fools sitting on fortunes while young people struggle. So you decided to speed up the inheritance process. They were going to die anyway. I just made it profitable." The confession was perfect, captured in high definition by cameras she never knew existed. But I wasn't done yet. "Tell me about Vincent Castellano," I said. "Who?" But her eyes gave her away. "Vinny, your cleanup specialist. The man you called last night to coordinate removing evidence after my murder." Ryan looked up sharply. "Murder? You said it would be an accident." "It would have been," Jessica snapped, "if your father hadn't turned into some kind of surveillance expert." "Actually," I said, checking my watch, "Vinny's not coming. None of your network is operational anymore." As if on cue, the front door burst open. Detective Morrison entered with his tactical team weapons drawn, badges visible. "Cleveland Police, nobody move." Kate Sullivan followed, carrying a briefcase full of legal documents. "Jennifer Walsh, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, elder fraud, and outstanding warrants in the deaths of Harold Peterson and Dorothy Mitchell." The next few minutes were a blur of Miranda rights, handcuffs, and the systematic dismantling of a criminal enterprise that had operated across multiple states for years. "How long have you known?" Ryan asked as they cuffed him. "Since Friday morning," I replied, "when I heard you planning my death." You chose this Ryan. When she gave you the choice between my life and your debts, you chose the money." As they led him away, I felt something I hadn't expected, not satisfaction, but sadness. I'd raised that boy, loved him, sacrificed for him. But the man they were arresting wasn't my son anymore. He was a stranger who'd been willing to watch me die. Detective Morrison approached as the last of the tactical team cleared out. "Mr. Brooks, it's over. We've arrested 6 members of the Castellano network across Ohio. This operation is finished." I looked around my living room, the same room where they'd planned my murder, where I'd gathered the evidence that saved my life. "What happens now?" "Now you live," Morrison said simply, "and Jennifer Walsh never kills again." Outside, I could hear the neighbors gathering, drawn by the police presence. Soon there would be questions, reporters a trial. But for now, in this moment, I was simply a man who'd refused to become a victim. The clock on my mantel read 7:45 a.m. 15 minutes ago, I was supposed to be dead. Instead, I was finally completely alive. 6 months after the arrests, I sat in the courthouse gallery as Jennifer Walsh received a sentence of 25 years to life for multiple murders, elder abuse, and conspiracy. The judge's words, "Your calculated predation on vulnerable seniors represents the worst of human nature," hung in the air. When she glanced at me one last time, I saw no remorse, only cold calculation. Some people, I'd learned, cannot be redeemed. Ryan's sentencing was harder. He received 12 years for conspiracy and elder abuse. From the defendant's table, his eyes still held the boy I raised, not the man who'd helped plan my death. The judge reminded everyone that betrayal within families where trust is assumed deserves the sternest accountability. The Castellano Network's trials unfolded across 3 states. Vincent Castellano himself drew multiple life terms. The FBI estimated their operation had targeted more than 30 elderly victims over 2 decades. My covert recordings supplied the crucial evidence that dismantled the entire enterprise. Courtroom victories, however, were only the start of something larger. Change began in my own neighborhood with Mrs. Patterson, the widow, whose frantic phone call had set the rescue in motion. I installed a full security system in her house and taught her how to spot the red flags of elder fraud and manipulation. "You've given me something I lost when Harold died," she told me, holding the safety checklist we'd built. "The feeling that I can protect myself and make my own choices." Word spread quickly through Cleveland's senior community. Within months, I was consulting with families across the city, hardening homes, auditing finances, and briefing loved ones about predatory tactics. The local police invited me to speak at community meetings. Detective Morrison introduced me by saying I'd not only saved my own life, but shown how seniors could fight back against predators who assume they are helpless. The Ohio Attorney General's office asked me to help write elder protection protocols, and my story became central to a statewide awareness campaign. The message was simple and powerful. Age brings experience and practical skills to recognize and resist danger. Dr. Hamilton remained my physician and became a close friend and advocate. "You've turned personal trauma into community purpose," she told me. "That's not merely surviving, it's triumph." Kate Sullivan, my lawyer, and I led legal workshops teaching seniors how to protect assets and spot illicit schemes. My house transformed from a target into a fortress. The basement workshop that had been a planned murder scene became a training center where I taught basic security and practical self-protection. Neighbors began checking on each other. We formed an unbreakable network of mutual support. Mrs. Patterson organized weekly coffee meetings where we exchanged suspicious activity reports and celebrated small victories. The sting of Ryan's betrayal never fully faded, but it became useful. It sharpened my understanding of how predators exploit emotional bonds and family dynamics. In every presentation I delivered, I stressed a hard truth. Sometimes the greatest threats arrive from those we trust most. Letters arrived from across the country, hundreds of notes from families who'd heard the story. One elderly man in Florida wrote that my example had empowered him to question his family's suspicious financial behavior and confront a grandson who'd been stealing from him. Those letters were daily reminders of why this work mattered. Jennifer Walsh had seen elderly people as disposable obstacles to wealth. Each senior who learned to defend themselves disproved that terrible assumption. 6 months earlier, I had been marked for death by my own family. Now I woke in a home bristling with security, surrounded by people who respected rather than exploited my decades of experience. My calendar was full: speaking engagements, consultations, coffee dates with friends who valued my presence. The greatest victory wasn't merely surviving a murderous scheme. It was discovering that the truest family had been waiting in my community all along, ready to appreciate what I had to offer. Sometimes God places us in situations that test not just our survival, but our faith in humanity itself. Stephen's story reminds us that betrayal stories like this aren't just about crime. They're about the strength we discover when everything familiar becomes dangerous. When family turns against us, God provides other paths to safety and purpose. The most powerful lesson from Grandpa stories like Stephen's is that age isn't vulnerability. It's accumulated wisdom waiting for the right moment to shine. These betrayal stories teach us that predators often hide behind love, but genuine care never demands we surrender our safety or dignity. Stephen's technical skills, built over decades, became his salvation when family failed him. God works through our preparation and community connections. The forgotten camera announcement, the neighbor's emergency call, the professional relationships Stephen had cultivated, these weren't coincidences. They were divine appointments that saved his life and exposed a criminal network. Elder abuse happens because we assume age equals helplessness. But Grandpa's stories prove that experience, preparation, and faith create an unbeatable combination. When we honor our elders' wisdom instead of exploiting their trust, we build communities where predators cannot thrive. Stephen's transformation from victim to advocate shows us that God can use our darkest moments to illuminate paths of service and protection for others. Your turn to share wisdom. What betrayal stories or grandpa stories have shaped your understanding of family trust and resilience? Drop a comment below, sharing your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring life stories that remind us how strength can emerge from our greatest challenges. Which city are you listening from today?
Asterisk after listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. **